Hey y'all, it's Greg. I'm a member of the United States Congress representing Texas. I just finished my first term, and if you want to hear about it, come with me as I draw my term.
So it all started out with me getting sworn into Congress. And I was there with, these are my other friends who also were supposedly getting sworn into Congress. The problem was we didn't actually get sworn in for 15 different rounds of votes because Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans were such a disaster. Newsflash. But eventually we did get sworn in. After that, we finally got to work writing bills, co-authoring bills to turn them into laws. Proposals like the Women's Health Protection Act, or the Green New Deal, which can help us solve the climate crisis while creating union jobs, or the PRO Act so that people can organize. A lot of these bills didn't go far in the Republican-run Congress, but we provided a vision for the American people. Now, even though these bills weren't going anywhere, I wanted to use my position to still change people's lives directly. So in the middle of summer in 2023, I held a thirst strike on the steps of the Capitol. That meant we brought a bunch of people together to not drink water all day in the sun. It's not the Texas sun, but it was hot in DC. We stood there fighting for a federal rule to give workers the right to a water break. And I got a phone call. I promise my iPhone looks newer than this, but old-fashioned phones are easier to draw. And on that phone call, Secretary of Labor Julie Su said that she and President Biden were about to announce that they were going to accelerate this rule to protect workers. And lo and behold, 2 days after the thirst strike, President Biden went on TV and said he was going to crack down on corporations that abuse their workforce. Unfortunately, our work isn't just about trying to do good. It's also about stopping crazy bad things from happening. This is my attempt at drawing the Capitol. And if you think this is bad, wait till you hear what Republicans do in this building. They have tried over and over to shut down critical government services that taxpayers have already paid for and rely on. You might think, well, what big deal? But it is. If the government shuts down, veterans who rely on the VA get screwed over. Older people try to change their address to get their Social Security checks, they get screwed over. All because Republicans want to make permanent huge cuts to programs that help our kids. And so we fought to make sure these services stayed open by refusing to play into the Republicans' games and kept these services going. I also introduced the first ever bill to connect Texas's grids to our neighboring states' grids. This bill would make sure the lights stay on in Texas, even when it's really hot or really cold. I promise this is supposed to be a lightning bolt. But MIT released a study saying over 80% of the blackouts we suffered during Winter Storm Uri under ERCOT would have been prevented if they'd simply passed my bill to connect the grid. I also brought home federal funding for buses, bridges, parks, and housing in places like Austin, San Antonio, San Marcos, places I'm proud to represent. But one of the most fun projects I've gotten to work on is finishing the funding for the Wishbone Bridge in East Austin. If this is Lady Bird Lake over here, this is where the Longhorn Dam is. This is the bridge that would cross where Pleasant Valley Road is, where right now you got to take your life into your own hands to get across the river. And we'll have a cool plaza in here in the middle where you can hear live music, hang out with your friends, ride your bike across this boardwalk, and walk across the water in East Austin instead of the existing dangerous street. We brought home several $1 million to finish this bridge. And in total, across Travis, Bexar, Comal, and Hays County, we brought home nearly $400 million to do awesome projects like this. I'm also reminded every single day as I do this work about the resilience of our constituents. I made a visit to Uvalde, Texas, just outside of my district, to meet with family members of the children who were so horrifically killed there. If you've been wondering what these wristbands are, these were given to me by family members of those children, and I promise to keep wearing them on my wrist or keep them here on my desk until Congress finally passes legislation to prevent needless killings like those in Uvalde. I'm motivated to do this work when I remember that these families continue to advocate for what's right in the memory of their children. We should be addressing suffering near home, but also around the world. And a lot of the suffering around the world actually drives migration. Forgive me for a second here while I try to draw the world, but here's the border. And the truth is, immigration doesn't start at our southern border. It starts in people's home countries. And so I wrote the Migration Stability Resolution to start taking on immigration from a different angle. We need a better immigration system, but we also should stop policies that are pushing people out of their home countries because of war, lack of investment, and us driving poverty sometimes with our own policies as the United States. Then Congress was sent home just before the 2024 election. As you now know, Donald Trump won, Republicans gained control of the House and the Senate, and now we have to ask tough questions about how we reform and transform the Democratic Party so that once again we can be a popular populist party that stands for working people. And that work began this month when I was proud to be elected the next chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the CPC, which I guess technically gives me this kind of fancy gavel. The CPC is best prepared to chart forward a new path for the Democratic Party, a path where we focus on taxing the rich, building housing, raising wages, improving the schools. We're the caucus that's unbought and unbossed by the wealthy. We're willing to stand up to the billionaire class and the corporations, the liars and the cheaters, and have a new path for our country. And that's it for drawing my first term, but keep an eye out for us in the new year because we're not going anywhere.